Ciao, hi, hey guys, I'm just checking I'm live on Facebook as well. Come on, Facebook. Ciao, hi, hey guys, it's your boy MKS here, back in another video. What time to get a notification on my phone. Anyway, hope you can hear me clearly enough. And so say I'm back with another video. Today I want to focus on my thoughts on football, my dreams about football, or my top footballing dreams, sorry, and also my thoughts on football generally. I've had quite a few thoughts on football recently. I've been having quite a few thoughts on football, as per usual. I know I overthink. So yeah, I thought I'd cover those and give me an idea to cover for today, or tonight, I should say, probably, because it's already night time. It's already nearly 10 o'clock. But anyway, hope you enjoy listening to my mad ideas and thoughts and whatnot, ideas, plans, thoughts, and whatnot on football. So here goes. So number one, as I've been trying to focus on this month as much as possible, my main goals and dreams, not just for this month, I suppose, but for football generally, and again, what I'm going to focus on mainly this month, or the main focus for this month, rather, sorry, is for, and I've been trying to get my thoughts onto paper and in my diaries and things like that for planning for the future. But again, the main plans I have is like for helping me time football. As you can probably tell if you see my other videos, I know I do repeat myself a lot, but to make the time football back to number one, to be the top footballing nation, especially, well, Italian football generally, and for Juventus to have the best possible youth academy around the world, which I've talked about recently. So I guess our main dream on football, and I'd love to look into ways to help Italian football to get back to the top. And the main thing I've been trying to focus on for this month, and because it's, as I've mentioned recently, it's because it's January, I'm mainly thinking about Juventus as well. Juventus January, they both start with J. So yeah, that's my main goal and dream, to help Italian football get back to the top at club and country level, and that kind of thing. Point number two, hopefully, I'd love to mainly focus, I'll say, in January on Italian football, and I've been trying not to think too much about Celtic, but I do often think about Celtic as well. And ideally, I would love to wait till February and onwards to focus on Celtic, but I'm a bit worried about Celtic's transfer window, which is one thing I've been thinking about. I often think we're going to, as usual, we're going to lowball. We're going to make lowball offers, as they call them, i.e. we're going to ask clubs, we're going to try and offer small amounts of money for clubs to buy their players, and they're going to say no, and then we're just going to come up no with few, if any, signings, or just loan signings, or very cheap signings. But there's something, thoughts I have on that which I wanted to talk about in these videos, but I'm probably not going to mention them just at this point, but later on. But I know I'll mention about how I love 40 Italian football, and Celtic to learn from other clubs. In Juventus' case, I'll say to learn about youth development, especially in particular, and Italian teams generally, to learn about youth development, but also like procuring the best possible players, learning about marketing Italian football better, and things like that, and that kind of thing. So yeah, those are some of my these are my thoughts and goals and dreams, and I know I have this sort of pattern, which I hope helps me in some ways, but I guess it does make it difficult in other ways because I can be a bit rigid. I probably should mix it up a bit, but anyway, I'm going to move on to point number three. I'd love to fundraise as much as possible to provide free footballs and training opportunities for people in Italy, especially at Juventus at youth level, and for Celtic as well. So it can give free opportunities to play football as much as possible. And I'd love to even fundraise to give I'd love to, when it comes to Italy, I'd love to fundraise so that Italians would, about 10% of the population, if not more, would be able to focus on playing football and know, like an insurance policy, if I could fundraise through creative ideas. So, like, for instance, if young Italians, like, they could try and focus on a career in football and know if they do get an injury or something happens where they don't make it pro, in other words, they won't have to worry about, like, where am I going to pay for my food. Where am I going to get a job and all that? Because they have insurance, like an insurance policy. So it would give an opportunity for like 10% or more of Italians to have some sort of career in football, and hopefully as many of them as possible to make it pro. Maybe even like 10% of Italy to be pro footballers. Maybe that's a mad dream too far even for me, but that's my mad dreams. I wonder how dream driven I should be. In other words, how idealistic and unrealistic I should be, or whatever. And who knows what you can make real. Like, it seems unrealistic till you do it. As they say, you could come across as a madman unless until you prove everyone wrong, and then you can be seen as a genius. So it can be like a fine line between success and failure, and also either being a madman, antric, or genius. I like to think I'm both. Maybe not, but I may dream. I know I'm a mad person, but I love to think I'm a genius in some way. Maybe not. I love to dream that anyway. I wish I was, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. I guess hopefully I can be proven wrong or whatever. My cousin used to say to me once, I should give this side story, but my nice life stories, as I say. But one of my cousins actually said to me, please, God, strike this guy with lightning or something to knock some sense into him. But I was like, I don't know if it works like that. I'm not sure if that's ever happened to anyone, but I'm pretty scared of lightning or whatever. But it would be interesting if I was the first person who was like knocked sense into, like they actually became a genius. It might have happened to one or two people, but I'm not sure. Anyway, if you know any stories on that, please let me know. And Court, on that note, any thoughts you have on football, especially Italian football and Celtic, or football generally, I'd love to know. And on that note, number 4, I love to work with FIFA and UEFA, which I talked about before, and to give football fans a voice, not just Italian fans and Celtic fans, but football fans generally, even Rankers fans, as I call them, Rangers fans. So even rival football fans. The team I detest. I don't know, detest is probably a bit of a strong word. I wouldn't say I hate. I think detest means hate. So I wouldn't say I hate the Rangers, but I strongly dislike them. It probably is a bit close to hate, but I wouldn't quite go as far as to say I hate them. But they are my least favourite sports team, I guess, probably. So yeah, the Rangers are probably my least favourite sports team, I would say, thinking about my thoughts more generally. And I've just remembered something else I was going to say as well. But yeah, I love to give football fans, even Rangers fans, but especially Celtic and Italian fans, but even whether fans from England, Scotland, Ireland, Germany, Argentina, or anywhere else around the world, I love to give them a voice. And one idea I've talked about quite often is how I'd love for, and I'm thinking, I hope I don't forget anything, but if I do, I'll probably, as ever, try and include it in either part 2, 3, and 4. But so part 2, 3, and 4. But hopefully covering all my bases there. But an idea I have for like discouraging people from companies, from investing in the weapons trade, in wars or things like that. You know, people might say people from Britain apologise too much, so sorry for that. But on a slightly more serious note, like discouraging from investments into wars and the weapons trade and things like that, and instead encouraging investors to invest in football now, specifically. Obviously, as a fan of Italian football and Celtic, I would love for it specifically to be invested into Italian football and Celtic. And I love for Italian football and Celtic to get as much investment as possible, and all sorts of legal and any legal investment they can get. So again, for instance, discouraging companies from investing in wars and weapons trade, a sort of peace group that wants to make peace through football. But as I came up with that idea, as far as I'm aware, people probably came up with similar ideas, but I've not heard anyone say that specific idea. But people have probably come up with the idea of peace through football, using football as like a bridge building thing, where they're basically building bridges between different communities and all that kind of thing, diversity in football or whatever, including migrants and refugees in football and all that kind of thing. But in terms of discouraging investing in the weapons trade and encouraging instead investment into Italian football or Celtic or football generally, as far as I'm aware, I'm the first person to come up with that idea. But anyway, or at least the first person to discuss it. Someone else may have done, but I've not seen it. So as far as I'm aware, it's an idea, but what is worth. which I think would be a very good thing. But again, I'd love for it to be peace through football. But as a fan of Italian football and or Celtic, I'd love to see it specifically directed into Italian football and or Celtic. And I love for Italian football teams to be co-owned by companies that begin with the same letter or letters, e.g. Cascade Investment to invest in Cagliari, for instance, or however you pronounce them. Number 5. So yeah, I had a few thoughts on football. It seems quite. Some people say like when you're trying to sleep, or when you're at least ready for it, like a lot of ideas can come to you, and they're like it might be too tired to write them or whatever. I sometimes or often struggle from writer's block and things like that. But it's a lot of time I'll think of all these ideas I had in my mind, but trying to focus and think of like covering them and struggle writing them can be difficult. Or after I finish a video, so a lot of time I think, oh sugar, I forgot to say such and such, to put it politely. My main focus and my main dreams, which I normally talk about, is like when it comes to football, is for the Italian national team to win the most World Cups. That would be my top priority, closely followed by Italian club teams like AC Milan, Fiorentina, and the rest between them to win the most, like Serie A teams to win the most continental or European and international trophies in terms of European teams, and then Celtic to continue to win the most domestic trophies. But I might talk a bit about Celtic a bit more later. But as I say, for January, my main focus is on Italian football and youth development in Juventus especially. Which reminds me, I forgot to say in point number 3, and I could have said in point number 4 as well, but I'd love for to focus on like Milan having a scary team, which I talked about recently, scary players that put fear into the opposition. In other words, and I'd love to react to scary videos and make horror movies of the thrillers, and any money I would raise, ideally, in my dream world, I would, hopefully I can make dreams reality somehow, I would donate that to AC Milan. So it'd be even just a donation, not even an investment or a sponsorship, but just a full donation, which would mean I would want nothing in return except for to see teams like AC Milan winning so many European trophies on behalf of Italian football, and basically seeing Italian football return back to the glory days. And Roma, I'd love to be the Giallorossi, Galacticos, and all the new Real Madrid. And Juventus, I'd love to have the best youth academies and the national team. I would love to see win the most World Cups. Hence, I thought I could include it in point number 3 or 4, because 3 Italian clubs that I focus on the most, or Italian football generally, and including the national team. But anyway, moving on, number 6. I know I mentioned recently again, but to recap, I'd love to see. To recap on a point I mentioned recently, I'd love to see all those involved in Italian football, the national team, Serie B, Serie A, Serie G, and even like the grassroots level, semi-pros, amateurs, parks, schools, teachers, parents, and the wider society generally, trying to encourage people to play football, especially young people, even cutting crime through football and all that kind of thing. So hopefully, again, seeing Italian football return to the glory days, hopefully both at club and country level as well at the same time. It's hard to get the balance right with both those things, but hopefully learning a lot from like Spain, France, and other countries and their club teams as well as their national teams. Number 7, when it comes to Celtic, I think the number 7 reminds me of Celtic for some reason, hence I include it in point number 7 normally. Again, I fear they make low ball offers, as some fans call it. So they offer a small amount of money and then say like, oh, clubs are not interested. And a lot of Celtic fans have said recently, like, in fact, not just recently, but over quite a substantial amount of time, like the board, lots they sacked the board and things like that. But I would love to ask Celtic fans like who they would replace the board with. Maybe there could be a consortium of fans, including celebrity fans like Rod Stewart, Snoop Dogg, Conor McGregor, and others who could invest in the club, or even like a combination of celebrity supporters, fans generally, celebrity fans, and wealthy investors generally as well, having like shares and equity in the club, And even like, well, I might include this in another point, but yeah, I'm worried about like they're not going to make any offers, and like we'll end up with either with no signings or very few signings, or really poor signings, like cheap signings, rather than spending the money. Like some say, I wonder if we are secretly broke, or heaven forbid, or if something's going wrong at the club and we're not being told about, which would be good if they had more communication. But yeah, they say. I was thinking that even if Celtic have like half the money we say we have, which was like still be about 40 million or something, like 35 or 40 million or whatever, or at least 30 million or whatever, we could still spend that money on buying better players in Scottish money, and in Scottish football it's not very expensive to buy players. But yeah, I wonder if celebrity fans and fans generally could have more shares, increase their share base, and like come together to see if they could spend more money. And that reminds me of an idea I thought of, like even people like Billy Connolly, Frankie Boyle, and other Celtic supporters, Snoop Dogg, Rod Stewart, and others, could each, like say, maybe even gift the club a certain amount of money to buy a player, and say like, we'll give you, or even buy a player on behalf of the club. Say we're going to buy you this striker as a late Christmas present. I think that'd be pretty cool. A quirky idea, I know, as per usual for me. Yeah, again, I wanted to focus on Italian football, but because the January transfers, I was going to say the January sales, but the January transfer window, if and when it shuts, I mean, it's going to shut at some point. When it shuts, if we haven't bought a great player, it's going to be too late, and then it could be too late to turn the league around and win things. So I do worry about that. But yeah, I fear we're going to make low ball offers and things like that. But moving on, number 8, one idea I came up with as well is thinking about Celtic again. I love for Italian football and Celtic to work together, learn from each other, and learn from others, and share ideas. And I think if and when they could, and work together as much as possible. And POC to support Celtic, as I often say. Our rivals sing like Rule Britannia, but they also sing like No Pope of Rome, and they sing very anti-Catholic songs. So I wonder if Celtic could capitalise on that by saying to Catholic individuals and churches, trying to get them to invest in the club and have like investments, even donating to the club, and certainly having shares in the club, which would hopefully help the club financially. I just obviously hope the club would actually go and spend that money, and maybe covering some of the club's debts and things like that, to sort of get revenge on. I know they say vengeance is a bad thing, but they could sort of get one back at the Rangers for slagging off and hating Catholics. So even though I'm not a Catholic myself, I support Celtic for a different reason, but I think they should capitalise on the hatred that the Rangers have for Catholics by encouraging Catholics, as I say, to invest into, even donate to, and certainly sponsor the club, if that makes sense. Number 9, as I say, I hope I don't forget some of the ideas I have, but as I say, my main priorities would be for Italy to win the most World Cups, Italian club teams to win the most trophies in Europe, like Europa Leagues, Champions Leagues, Conference Leagues, World Club Cups, Super Cups, and things like that. UEFA Super Cups, that is. So to overtake La Liga as a top league in Europe. And I suppose the European leagues are mainly the top leagues. So in other words, they'd be the top league in the world, I would imagine. And seeing Celtic win the most trophies, and also doing a lot for charity. So those would be my main priorities. So seeing football being used for good, as I say, building and that kind of thing. And number 10, as I say, my main priority for this month would be to encourage youth development in Italian football, including like Juventus having so many academies. I'd love to fundraise for Juventus to have so many academies, and the Italian national team to have, so Italy to have its own version, especially with Juventus, its own version of St. George's Park, La Masia, Clairefontaine, and other stadiums all around the world, and basically as many youth academies as possible, and Italian youth to have as many opportunities to play football as possible, and be invited to China, India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, and other places like that to play football as much as possible. And I want to talk more about like Anglo-Indians and other Eurasians, neurodivergent people with mental health problems, which I talked about recently, and that kind of thing in part 3 as well. So anyway, I hope you all out for that. And I'm out.